Hello everyone and welcome to the latest in the Retention People's webinar series. My name is Julie, I'm a member of the UK Retention Coaching team and it's my pleasure to introduce today's webinar. If you'd like to ask any questions during the session, then please do so by submitting your question in the right hand panel and I will collate these throughout the webinar and I'll be joining our presenter today, Craig, at the end of the session for the Q&A element. I am delighted to welcome our presenter today, my fellow retention coach Craig. For those of you who don't know Craig joined TRP in October 2014 and has over 15 years experience within the health and fitness industry, 7 of which he spent as a club manager. This month Craig explores the question, is retention a gym thing? Looking at how you can challenge and change your club's culture. So without further ado, I shall hand you over to my colleague Craig. Thank you.
Thanks, Julie. Hello and welcome to our September webinar titled Is Retention a Gym Thing? As Julie said, I'm Craig and I'm from the UK team and I've got the pleasure of taking you through the topic today. So let's begin. So we're initially going to look at what our customers want, and as part of our current research we've been looking into the views of 10,000 of our customers in the UK to understand their perceptions across a variety of areas. And we asked the question about what types of communication they valued. 87% of people, our customers, reported back that they valued being spoken to by the fitness teams, but only 37% of people actually reported that this was happening regularly. And 74% of people said that they valued being spoken to by the reception teams, but only 45% of people said that, again, this was happening on a regular basis. So while these figures show like a shocking disparity between what is valued and what's received, it's good to understand what our customers would like from us when they attend your facilities. So what's your club culture? And the team at TRP have got vast experience working in the industry. Most of us as operators are now working with current operators to assist in the development of their retention strategy. And we find that many are following an approach that has teams working in silos. So our lifeguards are focused on keeping people safe on poolside, maybe keeping some areas of your facilities clean. The receptionists, they're then quite often measured on the amount of time a customer's queuing or how quickly they answer a phone or maybe a target on resales. Our group exercise instructors get measured on delivering classes and just be measured on membership on attendees to classes as well. The sales teams get measured on selling memberships and the gym teams tend to be the ones who've got the task of improving retention. And in our work as customer experience management specialists, we deliver a great deal of interaction and retention management training. Typically, we work with fitness teams whose job it is to focus on keeping those customers longer, but it really shouldn't be like that. And have you considered including all the team members, not just fitness, within our sessions, like things like interaction training? We're going to show you some research later that's going to advocate that you do that. We'd also suggest that if other heads of department are not part of your customer retention work, then they should be. If everyone's working together in your business, the team as a whole can understand how their role and the part they're going to play in boosting retention amongst all of your customers. And fundamentally, we need to ensure we all understand our part in the retention jigsaw and how it fits into the overall strategy in keeping members more active and for longer. My colleague Julie's favourite line when we're talking about a shared goal is one team, one dream. So we should all be working towards the same target. But who should know your retention rate? So if I were to ask you to go away and ask all the members of staff in your team what your retention rate was, what do you think they would say? Would the whole team look at customer visits differently if what they were or were not doing on a daily basis was linked to their overall retention performance of your club? Well, we believe that everybody should know your retention statistics, and typically your teams will typically your teams will focus on what you focus on. So this could be something as simple as following a corporate policy of wearing a name badge. They see you coming, so they make sure that they have this on, and after a while it becomes second nature. But would you rather your teams were doing day-to-day tasks naturally because they understand it will increase the median length of stay, thus improving your customer retention? I'm sure most of us would say yes to this part, but how do we convince our teams to do this? It's probably important to also understand what you're measuring when you speak about retention. So do you know your median length of stay? Many clubs are actually measuring their attrition rate, which ultimately looks at how successful your sales team have been against the number of customers that leave your club. If you haven't already looked at my blog on measuring retention, I've included a link at the bottom of this slide so you can read it later, because we're going to be sending these out after the webinar finishes. But what difference can other team members make? So as part of our ongoing research, we have strong statistical evidence that proves customers stay longer if they're interacted with. In our latest research release, we've been looking at the impact that can be made by a reception team to your customer retention. So in figure 1, overall, 22% of members said that the reception staff always spoke to them, but 35% said they were never spoken to. Females were more likely to be spoken to than males, and age had an impact too. Reception staff were more likely to speak to older than younger members. Meanwhile, half of new members reported they were never spoken to, while a third of long-standing members say that they were always spoken to. So I think there are two areas that warrant a little bit more focus. The first is customer ages. So our younger customers are the ones we find it hardest to retain. Yet our 25 to 34-year-olds are reporting close to 50% are never spoken to by reception staff. It's also important to note that a typical club between the 16 and 34-year-old age categories can make up between 50 and 80% of your member base, so absolutely massive. The second part is the membership length. So again, we have massive numbers of our new members not feeling that they're being spoken to in the first 6 months of their stay with us. And this only really drops down once they stay with us for 36 months plus. I don't know about you, but I think that's terrible considering 74% report that they value this type of communication. Most clubs don't truly understand that half their customers leave in the first 6 to 12 months, and many straight after their fixed term contract expires. As I referred to in a previous slide, many don't understand their retention statistics, sometimes letting their long-standing regulars skew their results. So are you in a continuous cycle of acquiring new members only to watch them leave? And could this be a result of them not feeling engaged at the first stage of every visit into your club? So we understand who has and who has not been spoken to, and now let's discuss what effect this can have on cancellation rates. So in figure 2, it shows that fewer members retain their membership if they report never or only occasionally being spoken to. 10% more members are reported to have kept their membership after the 7-month follow-up if they reported that the reception staff spoke to them on their last visit. So compared to members who say that they are always spoken to by the reception staff and were spoken to at their last visit, members who are never spoken to and were not spoken to at their last visit cancel at a rate 2.8 times higher. And this equates to an extra 21 cancelled memberships each month for every 1,000 members. This difference in cancellation rate widens further if members who say they value reception staff speaking to them never get spoken to. They cancel at a rate 3.4 times higher than members who value reception staff communication and always get spoken to. And this can equate to a loss of an additional 29 members out of every 1,000 each month. So even though a higher number of long-standing members say they value reception staff speaking to them compared to the new members, the detrimental effect of reception staff not speaking to them is less than if the reception staff do not speak to new members. Now let's put that into a little bit of context. So our new members who are not spoken to cancel at a rate nearly 3 times higher than established members who are not spoken to. Similarly, younger members who reception staff never speak to have a much higher rate of cancellation than older members who don't get spoken to. Although there are differences in the effect of reception communication on retention and attrition according to age, length of membership, and visit frequency in all types of members, reception communication equals increased longevity. And independent of age, membership length, and visit frequency, members who report always being spoken to by the reception staff are 30% less likely to cancel each month compared to members who say they're never spoken to. So, is talk cheap? So members who say they were spoken to during their last visit were 20% less likely to cancel over the next 7 months compared to members who were not spoken to. And this was irrespective of age, length of membership, and how often they use the club. Over 1/3 of members say reception staff never speak to them. And as a consequence, they're twice as likely to cancel their membership each month compared to members who are spoken to at least occasionally. So in other words, each time the reception staff speak to a member, rather than letting them walk by without any communication, the risk of them cancelling next month is halved. The majority of the members say that they value reception staff speaking to them, some more than others. But even if they say they don't value it, the research shows that they stay longer when they're spoken to. So indeed, for every 58 members who we speak to, one membership cancellation is avoided. And number 4, the two groups that were highlighted earlier, so our newer and our younger members who use their clubs infrequently, are most likely to report not being spoken to. And ironically, the very members most at risk of cancelling their memberships. So not speaking to these groups of members compounds their already high cancellation rate. And if reception staff had spoken to all members at least occasionally, we estimate that 30% fewer cancellations would have occurred during the 7-month follow-up period. So reception staff have the potential to make a significant difference to retention at present. The members most likely to be spoken to are those at the lowest risk of cancellation, and we really need to try and shift that towards speaking to more high-risk customers, and that would mean even more membership cancellations could be avoided. And ultimately, which would you prefer? Would you prefer the receptionist on the right or the receptionist on the left? But how do we get there? So if we're talking about recruitment, how do you recruit? Do you look for communicators who share your vision, and how are you going to find these? In my previous role, before working with TRP, I often led on recruiting for fitness staff and personal trainers. And this could be really frustrating, as when I first started interviewing, we would often gauge the candidate's suitability on a formal interview. And unfortunately, once we employed some of them, they either wouldn't or couldn't deliver on the soft skills that we'd highlighted as essential to ensure our business was successful. And specifically, we were talking about speaking to our customers. So we changed how we delivered interviews when we understood what we were looking for and added in a conversation task. So the candidate was asked to interact with what they thought was a customer, but they were actually speaking to a member of the team. And straight away, this helped us weed out at least 50% of applicants, as we understood who had the skills to have conversations with our customers. If they weren't 100% correct on how to perform something like a chest press, we could teach them how to do that. But it's a very different thing trying to teach somebody how to speak to somebody and truly want to help. So we would just suggest you ensure you interview and test for the skills you feel are essential for the role, rather than how others do it or how you've interviewed in the past. Let's talk about training and development. So training is a must within any organisation, but be sure you understand what is meant by training. We often have very good structured induction programs for new starters, new members of staff, but we quite often struggle to understand what continued development of our staff, what that looks like, and ultimately what they receive. Most operators probably wouldn't question the benefit of regular training for people like lifeguards in saving lives. It's seen as a necessity for lifeguards to be qualified and to be proficient at delivering treatment like CPR. As in the event of a medical emergency, it could be the difference between life and death of one of your members. But shouldn't we see soft skill training like interaction practice as part of our day-to-day staff training plans? because you could easily argue from the evidence that we've showed you earlier that these skills actually could be the difference between life and death of your business. At a very basic level, we would suggest you're having team meetings with all of your staff regularly. Group meetings help everyone understand your focus, your vision, your pathway to a more successful team and ultimately to a more successful business. So ensure you have a standard agenda. Make sure your retention figures are presented to all team members, discussing what you could do differently to improve your performance on a regular basis. Your aim should be to make everyone feel valued and part of either the team or the club, because team members are more likely to help you achieve your collective goals, assisting in difficult times if they feel valued throughout. The shocking truth is that often it's not the case. I listened to a talk at a UK industry event recently that suggested staff and managers dreaded one-to-one meetings. And if this is how you feel, I would suggest that you're doing something terribly wrong. You should be motivated to get the best out of everyone you have working for you, and these meetings are essential for your success, even if they're 5 minutes once a fortnight. But typically clubs with higher staff retention, invest time in their teams, and when asked why they stay, typically they say because they feel part of the organisation, they love the job that they do. And these companies with high retention, typically their customers stay longer, as their staff loyalty can lead to club or onto brand loyalty. And ultimately, we're a service industry that can thrive off human interaction and relationship building, and we need to ensure we have the teams that can cultivate this for us. But what about bonuses? Is your bonus culture working against your retention work? So clubs that still pay bonuses to sales staff for every membership sold could potentially be undoing the great work that other members of the team are undertaking. So is your management team fixated by the monthly sales figures, but they do not ensure that the new customers actually receive the service that they were promised at the point of sale? You could easily have a customer who has actually stopped using your facility even before you've paid the bonus out to your team if you don't do what you promised right from the start. And would your sales staff be more retention focused if we only paid out a bonus once the member had actually been with you for 6 to 12 months? I guarantee you that you'd have more successful new member journey programs if your sales staff bonus was dependent on something like this. And you could even consider paying different rates for different age groups. If you know what yield you have from members in each age category, you might consider paying a bigger payment for higher yield return groups. This would incentivize your teams to target specifically to the people that are likely to stay with you for longer. So we've shared some of our insight from our study into what our customers want, but how can this link to your teams? The biggest area you might focus on is what type of communication your customers value. With it being either face-to-face communication is by far and away the method of choice. So surely if your customers would rather be communicated with in this face-to-face method, surely your staff would be the same. So we should listen to what your team members are saying, because they'll quite often have some really great ideas. But if you find yourself managing your teams through email rather than in person, are you going to hear these great ideas? I'm not saying email is not good. Email is great for confirming some things that you've discussed, but if you want to build the same level of trust and rapport that you're trying with your customers, you should offer the same level of respect to your staff with this as well. So let's wrap that up into some useful tips. So number one, so each visit counts. So it should be the aim of every member of staff to engage with your customer. So don't leave it to chance. Ultimately, if you can measure it, that'd be really, really good. But as a minimum, make sure everyone has practiced what to speak to your customers about. Number two, if possible, your focus should be to target new customers or those that have visited infrequently. So we need to make sure our new users are engaged with straight away. Number three, all staff at the very least should be offering a warm welcome and asking when the customer will be back next. Ultimately, these are service basics, but making sure your members understand when the next return visit is going to be can be really powerful. Point 4, review your recruitment process. Ensure you are assessing the real life skills that you need in a challenging situation. So are you getting the people you need from your interviews? Number 5, continue training is essential, and a major part of this should be team meetings where you share your retention success. Team meetings can count as training too, but make them regular and make sure they're consistent. Consider a bonus structure if you have one, and does it work against your customer retention work that you're doing? And number 7, communicate in person with staff members, as interaction is the key to your success. Talk face to face. We evolved as a species through that human interaction. Make sure that we keep doing that. So that's the end of my presentation today. Thanks very much for listening. Julie's now going to run through some questions that might have been posted as I've been talking.
Thank you very much, Craig. Yes, firstly, thank you to Tom for your question. We certainly will be sending out the slides from the webinar today. And secondly, I have a question here from Craig. What should the agenda of a meeting be, just so it's not another meeting for meeting's sake? Craig, do you want to input here?
Well, there's probably lots of different things you could definitely say you want to include, but I think with regards to this topic, we would just suggest that in the team meetings, just make sure everybody understands about retention. Quite often it is the focus on the fitness side of the business, and the other areas of the business just don't understand what the retention rate is at all, if the club understands how to measure their retention in the first place. So really we're just advocating that in your team meetings you are talking retention is one of the topics, so everybody understands it's going to be something that's going to come up on a regular basis, and you're always talking about how you're going to try to improve things about your service delivery that ultimately would have an effect on how long your customers stay with you. I don't know if you'd add anything in on that, Julie?
Yeah, no, I would certainly agree. Certainly from every meeting that takes place, customer experience really ought to be number one on the agenda. And if you're a multi-site operator, then ensuring that there's consistency across agendas as well. This should certainly help things. I wouldn't necessarily see this as an additional meeting. We all know that we're in lots of meetings anyway, but I would certainly recommend, if you are going to add an additional session, to really focus on your overall customer experience. That you might even want to sort of jazz it up with, calling it a workshop or something slightly different, so that you don't have that "is it just another meeting for meeting's sake" approach, which we can get from some teams. That's all I would add for now on that one. Any other questions at all? I'm sorry, Frank. We'll just wait a few more moments in case anyone would like to add anything else.
So is there a question on there? Do I see one that's saying in regards to reception communication, is this a conversation with the person or just a hello? I think realistically, you're going to have to you might have different conversations at different times of the day. We all know when the busy times are within like reception environment. Your peak times, your 5 to 8 p.m. on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday evening might not be the sort of time that you want to have a good old chat with the customers as they're either going in or leaving the facility. But at the very least, I would be saying something like just making sure we understand when the customer is coming back in for the next time. But having a bit of a strategy with regards to what is your club trying to get from the customer. Do you have like a process? Do you have like a set template that you're following, that everybody has those conversations in the same like format and the same manner, but then it's always been led by what the customer would like to have that conversation about. But yeah, definitely making sure that you understand when's the next time they're going to come in, because most people don't understand that. Any other questions, yours?
Just bear with me, I'm just going through. Question here again regarding the quality of the interaction. I would certainly say that absolutely the quality matters. if we are in a situation where we have a insincere blanket, when will we see you again, no personality behind it, then that would really concern me, and I would certainly say it would do more detriment than good. Craig, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, you just need to show you do truly, you truly value what the customer is going to say to you. If that stock question is when are you going to be in next time, the same as if you were going into McDonald's, they're going to ask you if you want to large that. You want to feel that the person who said that to you actually wants to know if you're coming back or not, rather than just asking for asking's sake because it's something that the manager told them to do. And that probably links quite closely back to that how you recruit people. If you're recruiting the right sort of person in the first place, then they're probably much more likely to truly want to make a difference to your customers. It's quite interesting if you look at some other industries. We did a forum probably about 6 months ago where we were talking about where do different industries employ people from, and one of the examples we gave was First Direct Bank. They don't employ out the banking sector, they employ out of the care sector because they think that they're going to get people that do truly care about other people rather than your stereotypical person was coming through from the banking sector. Yeah, so we're really trying to find out, get the people that you want in the position in the first place is probably the key thing to do.
Great question here from Lee. How can you get customers to interact with you that don't want to talk to you? Again, I think if we had £1 for every time we were asked that question, we'd be incredibly rich by now.
I think the key thing on that is you just need to try. I think sometimes we just make perceptions on what we think our customers want. If I was a member of any of your clubs, you would think quite often when I'm training, I'm the grumpiest person in the world and I don't want to talk to anybody because I've always got my headphones in and I'm don't often smile when I'm exercising, but I would love to have somebody come and have that conversation with me, just say hello, how are you doing, can I help in any way? So yeah, sometimes I think we don't want to perceive what we think of our customers, and sometimes the customers might have just had a bad day last time you tried to speak to them. They've had a really hard day in the office, they come in and see you, they don't want to be spoken to in that instance, but we make that link then to saying, well, they never want to be spoken to. So we just need to keep trying. If they say no, they say no. The more people we ask, the more likely we are to get those conversations. Any other questions, Jules?
No, nothing at the moment.
Cool. Well, you'll probably see up on the screen. Anyway, we've got all of the details. So there's my details on there, so my phone number, email address. If you do have any questions, feel free to forward them on to me. We'd be happy to answer them as quick as we can. Sorry. And I think we'll just the final bit for today will just be talking about next month. So next month, our webinars covering don't let your team get spooked by talking to members. So it leads on really nicely. We're going to be focusing on the power of effective coaching. It's the same day of the month, so the last Tuesday of the month, and at the same time as we've run that today. And if you want to get yourself booked onto that, you can go onto the retentionpeople.com website and you can register on there. As Julie said earlier on, we are going to be forwarding round the YouTube link to this, so you can watch this again, or any of your colleagues can watch it again. I think we normally forward through the slide deck as well, so you've got this to hand at the same time. And yeah, if we don't have any other questions, just like to thank everybody very much for taking the time out today, 30 minutes of your busy schedules to listen to us, and we look forward to speaking to you next time.